Hello. In this video, we will study how to integrate very basic Elasticsearch CRUD queries with Spring Boot. Note that we will be using Elasticsearch version 2.4.6 and Spring Boot version 1.5.9. Although Elasticsearch has an excellent documentation, most of the areas remain untouched when it comes to integration with Spring Framework. Make sure that you have a running Elasticsearch local instance with the mentioned version 2.4.6 as shown here. We'll make our project using Spring Initializer tool to quickly set it up with dependencies using Maven build system. Clearly seen here, we are making a Java project with Spring Boot version 1.5.9. We will provide a group ID and an artifact ID. We will be using just two dependencies here, Web and Elasticsearch. We use web dependency just to demonstrate sample APIs, otherwise Elasticsearch dependency is enough for things to work. To confirm your Elasticsearch is running on port 9200, which is the local instance default port for Elasticsearch, we will hit localhost 9200 and see expected results with a version number. You can go on and download this project which was generated. We downloaded this and unzipped this and prepared our project. Before going on to the project, we can see we can demonstrate how Elasticsearch mapping actually works. If you are coming from an SQL background, it is easy to switch to Elasticsearch when you grab the mapping. In SQL, what we call a database becomes an index in Elasticsearch. Tables become types and rows become documents. So this is the basic terminologies which will be helpful to understand the project. To demonstrate our project, this will be the project structure for the project. We'll be starting with our model Pojo. It is a simple Pojo as a user with new few fields and standard getters and setters. So basically we have used just these four fields. We have marked this user as a document, provided it with an index name, myIndex and type as user. So a simple Pojo. So to start with querying the data, we will be using ElasticsearchRepository. As seen, we have marked this interface as with repository annotation and extended Elasticsearch repository interface with user and string. Note that second type should be the ID for which you have defined this user, this string. To Actually, that is all the code for data access we need to write with Spring Data Elasticsearch repository. We can use this in our controller by simply auto-wiring it. So let us see how that is done. If we open our user data controller, we have defined a simple logger and we have auto-wired our Elasticsearch user repository. For get all, find one. If we go for get all users method here, we will see that we have used this findAll method, and findAll returns an iterable. So we are just converting it to a list for giving us an output. Apart from that, we have used we have defined an API to get a particular user with a given ID, for which we have used the find_one method, which expects the same kind of type string which we have defined in our user repository here. So this is to be noted that you should only pass find_one an ID of type which you have defined in your repository interface. Same for to add new users, you can call the save predefined method with a given object. You do not obviously you do not have to pass any user ID because Elasticsearch will generate it itself. Rest of the methods are similar. Get all user settings. We first get the user and then retrieve appropriate data. Same for a setting and same for adding a new key. So you just have to put a new key and save the new object. Now that we are through with Elasticsearch repository, we will take a look at a more controlled way of querying Elasticsearch index. We will use Elasticsearch template to do this. What we will do is we will first open our generic interface user DAL. We have defined some basic functions which have almost the same signature as the Elasticsearch repository. Only difference is that we will ourselves provide their implementations. Okay, so here are just get all users, get user by ID, add new user. So there are basically similar functions. Now we will open their implementation and we will start to go through the queries we have written here. First of all, we have defined our index name and user type name. If you see here, we have configure our local Elasticsearch. These are the inbuilt properties for Spring Data. Spring Boot can pick them up automatically when the application starts. It provides the cluster node as the host and port. Here is the cluster name. I have defined myself my own properties for this with the index name and user type. You can define more types here, just as I define this. I'm also running this application on 8102 and calling this application boot elastic. So basically, with the user DAL, you have to provide the make this, and I have auto-wired the Elasticsearch template. This bean is provided by Spring Boot itself on the basis of properties you define here. So for get all users, we have used a search query which uses a match all query which tells us to match all documents with given condition, and here we haven't given condition, and so the Elasticsearch template will return us all the available documents, that is all the available users. In the next method, get user by ID, we have accepted an ID as well. In this we provide a filter to search query uh, to filter data on the basis of user ID. Note that this will also return a list. If you expect a single result, you can just check if if the list is empty or not, and you can if it is not empty, then you can return the first element. If this is unique, of course. To add a new user, we have used an index query with which is used to index a new object. See that we haven't provided any ID for the new object. This is because Elasticsearch generated its own ID when we haven't made any. Again, with Elasticsearch, make sure that you mark your Pojo ID only to a string field because Elasticsearch can only generate string type of IDs. Next methods are similar. So we have basically used the same search query to find the user and retrieve its specific data. So this is how Elasticsearch works with Spring Boot. You can auto configure it in the application.properties file. You can use this Elasticsearch template here, and rest is very much basic. Thank you very much.